Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing for a bank holiday. Well, certainly down south it is. Monday, the 25th of August. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a full squad this morning. First of all, Blair Malloy. How goes it, Blair?
Morning, Derek. No, not a bank holiday for me. I'm certainly in the office bright and early this morning. Yeah, as good as one can be given the weekend showing, but plenty to talk about as always with Rangers come on Monday.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And Stevie joins us fresh from that away end from the Miovski Stadium yesterday. How goes it, Stevie?
Hi, Derek. What is this? 3-4 Mondays in a row. It's some laugh, isn't it? So somebody said to me last week that that I look grumpy on the Rangers Review and that I never seem happy. And I was like, I'm generally quite happy to be on and stuff. It's just, what do you want me to say when this is a level that we're watching? So I'll try. Look, do you know what, Derek? I'll try my best to throw in a few comedy moments this morning into what will be no sugarcoating it here. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. Teddy gets in touch. He says, Derek Blair and Reverend I am Jolly. So there you go. What a guy he was. So I take that as a compliment, Stevie, as he shakes his head.
Blair's been here about 2 weeks, and that's me. Like, just put down the pecking order as well, Derek. I find that, years of service to the Rangers Review, shocking behaviour.
Yeah, it's an absolute.
I am the shiny new signing, Stevie. That's how it goes. Someone comes in and takes your place.
If you're being guided by Russell Martin, then good luck, pal.
yeah. We'll get on to potential transfers on the pitch as well during the course of the show. But before we get stuck in, and we'll be getting stuck in, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust, and proud partners of the Rangers Review. If you're looking for a new fence, these are the guys to go, folks. They have over 20 years experience in the game, and you can get 10% off using the code Rangers Review over on their website, willows-fencing.com. They also offer free consultations. Right, we're going to dive into what Russell Martin, of course, had to say after the game, but we'll get your guys' views on what unfolded in Paisley yesterday. Rangers dropping yet more points, 3 league games, 3 draws. It's been a really abysmal start to the season. The galling thing yesterday was it wasn't a surprise. Let's be honest. I thought Rangers would drop points yesterday, and they did so. Credit to Finlay Curtis for salvaging a point at least with a fantastic strike in the second half. But Rangers, again, certainly first half, were dire, and that's been kind. Second half that they huffed and puffed, changed shape a little bit, but it was just nowhere near good enough and what is required at Rangers. Blair, you were there for us. What did you make of it?
Yeah, Derek, thoroughly disappointing, I think, is the takeaway from a Rangers perspective. I think we all knew going into that game in Paisley that it was going to be a tough afternoon, that it was going to be a battle, that Stephen Robinson was going to have his side well drilled and set up properly. And so it came to pass. They looked like a much more organised side than Rangers. They looked like a more cohesive side than Rangers. And whilst on paper they might not have the same talent in terms of players going for transfer fees, the players looked better in every position. They looked as though they were winning their battles in every single position. And I think the damning thing is that's not the first time this has happened this year. I think we've seen it on a few occasions with this Rangers team where they've looked second best in many positions all around the park. I think if we just go through the team, I think the defence again looked incredibly shaky. I think with the St Mirren goal, you see the centre-back pairing, Nico Raskin has his fault in that goal as well. But I think you see the centre-back pairing just absolutely torn to ribbons by one straight ball down the centre of the park, which I think is absolutely unforgivable at this level. Emmanuel Fernandez is looking over his left shoulder and Striker's over his right shoulder. It's almost comical at times the way the back two are trying to interact with each other. I think Max Aarons was relatively ineffectual again. I would actually be calling for James Tavernier to get back in the team before the game the other day, but he's stuck with Max Aarons and he didn't really offer much on the afternoon. I thought Jayden Megoma was a bit of a bright spark in the first half, and then he gets taken off at half time, which I think was a little bit confusing for a lot of punters. You look at the midfield three, as one of my journalistic colleagues pointed out before the game, that's the 6th different midfield combination he's tried out in 9 games, which really highlights a manager that's just searching for something in that middle of the park. I think we all agreed, and we've said ad nauseum on this podcast, that Raskin is probably your best number 6. And as much as Will Raskin's in the picture, I don't think you can play him and Joe Rothwell together. I just think Joe Rothwell doesn't offer you the legs that you need going forward. It doesn't offer the mobility going up the park. And then you've got this Tello Asgard experiment that you put him in at number 9. He doesn't really do a lot. He plays this almost false 9 position where he should be offering space to people, but there's nobody really to run into it. I thought Lyle Cameron made some bright moves, but nothing really doing. And if you're going to play Oliver Antman against a low block like that, I just don't really think it works. He's a winger that thrives on space, and if you put a back 5 against him, he's just going to run into trouble every single time. Jedi Gassama looked like the brightest spark in terms of the Rangers 11, but once again, he just keeps getting doubled up on, and it's up to the managers to try and work a way around about that, because our best player running into 3 or 4 men just shouldn't be happening over and over and over again.
Well, lots to unpack there, Stevie. As we touched on, you were in that away end yesterday. What was what do you make of the game, and what was the atmosphere like in there?
The atmosphere is poisonous, Derek. It's very toxic. There's no point in sugarcoating it. That away end want Russell Martin out as quickly as possible. It was evident in Motherwell. I said it at the time, and I'll say it again yesterday. It was even worse. So there's no point in me. It would be very disingenuous of me to sit here and say otherwise, because that's the way it is. How was the game yesterday? It was everything that we've seen so far, with zero signs of it getting any better anywhere. There's no patterns of play. There is no cohesive football. We were told, and I quote, his teams play dominant football. They control the ball, dictate the tempo, and impose themselves physically. They press aggressively, work relentlessly off the ball. These are characteristics that we believe required to be successful at home, away, and abroad. Can you wake me up when that starts, please? Because I've not seen any of it. The press is non-existent. They're physically not existent, and they don't dictate tempo or impose themselves on the game either. They're very, very, very easy to play against, Eric. As Blair pointed out, the goal was ridiculous, but we pointed out previously, I think I spoke to you the other day when Joshua was on about Bruges playing one pass from centre-back straight up to their striker and turning that into an attack. It's happening far too often. Dundee did it to us. Alloa did it to us with a long ball to Connor Salmon. And St Mirren managed it yesterday. We are wide open. And I'll continue to say that because I think that's the most obvious thing. We seem to have abandoned any concept of defending, especially from set pieces, where we just leave people unmarked. And it's simple ball thrown into the box. Where that header in the last couple of minutes is the one that I'm talking about, where Butland has to tip it over. There was 3 unmarked, Derek, again. And it's the basics are just not there. And what's happened, Derek, is as you well know, we spent a summer talking about this in the lead up to manager. Nobody wanted Russell Martin. So there is no wiggle room for him there at all. And now that it's unfolding the way it is, and the things that he's coming out and saying and how we're performing, people have just completely switched off to it all. I've never known a reaction to this so quickly as it's happened now, but there's no point in trying to sugarcoat it or pretend. That's exactly where the away support is yesterday. And it's not, look, it's not showing any signs of it getting better anywhere. The only time we looked in any way dangerous, and even then we weren't really, it was when we were trying to throw something at the wall, hoping it sticks, is when the formation was ripped up and when we had put forwards on and when we were just trying to overload and get something out of sheer desperation, Derek. But it's very telling that we are very easy to play against, in my opinion. Not even in open play, but from corners, set pieces. It's just a mess. And that's exactly where a lot of the way ends were yesterday, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is a mess. It's an absolute rabble. I mean, yesterday you mentioned team selection, Blair. Playing Asgard up top is something that surprised everyone, basically, but he doesn't have any strikers, Russell Martin, at this point, really. We're going to mention the Hamza Igamane situation. Cyril Dessers, of course, is injured at the moment. Danilo is just not doing it. Rangers, and we'll touch on this as well, are looking at bringing in reinforcements in the striker position. It just seems a bit panicky at the moment, just throwing stuff and just hoping it works. You mentioned Rothwell as well. Lots of comments coming in about his fitness. The game just seems to pass him by. The midfield isn't working. The defence, as Stevie just touched on there, is an abomination. And I've said this many times before. I was warned that Russell Martin, I was told at Southampton, he clearly doesn't know how to organise a defence. And that is no use if you're at Rangers. If you don't know how to do that, you're not going to last long. So there's just so many issues there in the forward line, midfield and defence.
Yeah, I think maybe a little concerning note amongst many yesterday was Russell Martin has always been a guy since he turned up at Rangers that has preached about his own philosophy and preached about the need to be all in, to buy in, about the way he wants to approach the game, about the way he wants to play football, which is fine. I get that. If you come into a big club and you want to establish yourself and you want to command respect as the leader, then you have to lay down the way that you want to do things. You look with 20 minutes to go yesterday, and I turned round to one of my colleagues in the press box and I said, what shape are Rangers playing? Because I couldn't point it out. I don't think anybody could pick it out. And I think there was no discernible style to that last 20 minutes of the game, which ironically, as Stevie points out, Rangers probably looked most dangerous. I think if you were to pick out any positives from yesterday, it's Finlay Curtis comes on. He looks to know where the goal is, looks to have an eye for goal, and he salvages something. But at the same time, you would have to say that probably isn't down to a lot of tactics. That's probably just down to there's more men in the dangerous area at that given time. And yeah, I think going into the latter stages of a game against St Mirren, when it looks panicky, when it looks as though Rangers are just trying to claw at something, I think that's worrying signs.
Yeah, stuff like this. I mean, Gordon raises the point in his post-match interview. He says, Ross will interview. Hopefully the results will come. Martin saying it's not the end of the world, Stevie. And he mentioned prior to the game, it's not critical. The games coming up, the St Mirren, Bruges and Celtic games. He's not really helping himself here. And you can understand why fans are getting frustrated at this. Is he aware of the magnitude of Rangers? Or, I mean, not just Russell Martin, fingers are now being pointed at those who put him through that rigorous interview process and selected him. He was supposed to be the outstanding candidate. You've just rounded off what I think what Kevin Thelwell said was one of the big attractions of Russell Martin's philosophy and style of play. Are these guys underestimating Rangers and what's required as well, perhaps, here?
Yeah, well, when things are going as well as they are, Derek, then I think it's, open season on everyone. We should not miss Patrick Stewart in this. That's now several misjudgments from Patrick Stewart since he came in the door, when you think about his very public backing of Philip Clement, only to bin him a week later. His reaction to the banners and things at Ibrox, and now his appointment, which he pushed, and he was thoroughly behind Russell Martin when he was warned by almost everyone to man that it wouldn't work and that nobody wanted him. I think that's the real issue here. Kevin Thelwell is just in the door, but the accusation being is, has he underestimated the calibre of player that we need? But just to go back to a point where Blair was talking about on the false nine and stuff like that, this is where it becomes kind of nonsensical for me, Derek. Why play a false nine when you're playing an attacking wingers with two apparently overloading fullbacks? Who are we aiming to? Because the amount of time we got in a position, and Blair would have seen this from the press box, where Jerry Gassama was down the left-hand side and he's looking for the same type of pass that he done to Dessers to play that 1-2, and there was nobody shown for it and nobody there to collect that either. And I just don't think it made any sense what he's trying to do. And the problem is that when you look at it, nobody knows what he's trying to do. And this was all very evident, Derek. Nobody wanted Russell Martin. There's no point in trying to sugarcoat that point of it either. And everybody warned that this style wouldn't work, especially in Scotland, because teams don't want the ball here. They play and wait for space to hit you on the counter, exactly as St Mirren did. There was 2 passes from the edge of the St Mirren box before they scored the goal. One to clear it and one through ball. And then there was, a couple of touches and a goal. 4 or 5 touches to slice this Rangers team apart. And that's exactly how teams in Scotland play. It's exactly how Dundee played, and it's exactly how St Mirren done yesterday. And fair play to them, because I don't have an issue with that. It's up to us to prove that we're better. But this style just is so effective for the opposition and not us. And that goes back to the people that pointed them and the people that wanted them in the job, Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, who pushed for this. So, yeah, it's open season, I'm afraid, for criticism of those that have put him in this position, and also for Russell Martin and what we're seeing at this moment. Regardless, by the way, of the fact that people want him to do well, because deep down people do want him to do well.
That means Rangers are doing well, isn't it?
Yeah, because the support is dying, Derek, to cling on to something. You've seen the reaction to Danilo's goal in midweek. You've seen the reaction to the goal yesterday. We are crying to hold on to something and to have a wee bit of encouragement, but it's simply not there. And there's no point in trying to say it otherwise.
Yeah. They're a rabble at the moment. I mean, there's managers, and the manager that was in charge of the opposition yesterday, I think, would have Rangers far more organised than what Rangers have been at this moment in time. Knives are out. There's no denying that. That's for sure. Let's move on to one of the big issues from the game. Then Russell Martin claiming that he wanted Hamza Igamane to come on the hour mark, and he said he refused to come on. So I'm going to play what Russell Martin had to say in his post-match press conference on that situation. Here he is.
So wanted to bring him on around 60 minutes, and he said he has a sore quad, so he can't come on.
Did you know about that? Presumably,
no, he wouldn't be on the bench if he's not fit. Yeah. So he said he'd done it warming up.
So do you think it's got anything to do with the speculations?
Yeah, we turned down a bid this week, but we'll assess his injury, and I have to trust Hamza. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think it comes into that category of people with one eye on the exit door?
Well, I think when you've had a bid turned down in the week, and then this happens maybe.
Right, so that is what Russell Martin had to say on Hamza Igamane, Blair. He first mentioned it, of course, when he was stopped by Sky before he came up to the press room. Many are saying it's just deflecting away from his own team's performance and taking responsibility for what went on. Now, the issue himself, player, incidentally, if true that he's refusing to come on, if he is injured, as Russell Martin says there, he has to take his word for it. But many are saying it's not a good look, and his behaviour is out of order. Hamza Igamane. What do you make of what Russell Martin had to say on that yesterday?
Yeah, it was in that press conference yesterday, Derek, and it was a bit of a bombshell moment when Russell Martin dropped that. Obviously, we just got a little bit of word of it from Sky, but he came in and elaborated on the fact that he said that Hamza Igamane had picked up an injury in the warm-up, and that's why he couldn't come on. I would have to question the nub of this issue for me, and I understand when you see a headline like Hamza Igamane refuses to come on for Rangers. I understand the anger that provokes within the support. I understand the visceral reaction that creates from people, because if you see the word refuse to play, and all of a sudden that throws up a whole lot of connotations. That whether he's injured or whether he's not, to me, is arbitrary. He's not on the park for any reason. Whether he's injured or whether he doesn't want to be, I can almost put that to one side. One of the questions for me I'd be asking is why Russell Martin has felt the need to make this into a headline, because Russell Martin is very clever and he knows what he's doing when he's speaking to the press, as most managers do. And he has deliberately chosen to go down this line of saying that Hamza Igamane said that he couldn't come on because he was injured. Now, he delivered it in such a way to cast aspersions over whether the fact that he was actually injured or not. He could have very easily killed this with one line. He could have just said, yeah, Hamza felt something when he was warming up. We'll have a look at it. And that's it. The story goes away and no one's talking about it the next day. But instead, this is a headline which people are now pointing to that deflects away from what was, again, an incredibly underwhelming performance. And I think that it's now got people talking about things in other directions. It's now got people angry about things in other directions. And it's just, Rangers currently seem to be lurching between drama to drama every single press conference. There seems to be something new coming out that is just making headlines. That's one part of the issue for me. I think the second part is Hamza Igamane is not on the park for whatever reason, and that means that Rangers don't have a functioning number 9. Danilo, I think, has proven this season so far that he is not good enough. He hasn't shown anything that gives me the confidence that I would start him in the biggest games going forward this season. We'll come on to Cyril Dessers shortly, but He's also been struggling with injuries so far this season. Cyril Dessers is a player that last season a lot of people were saying, is he good enough to lead the line? I think everyone thought Igamane was probably the best of the three options. Now, if he is, that leaves Rangers again without a proper option at that centre-forward position. So it would suggest to me that in this next week, we will be looking for another centre-forward. I think it will be top priority for this board because they know that one way or the other, they're going to have to find reinforcements at the top end of the park.
Stevie, the Hamza Igamane situation, should it have been handled better there? What did you make? Where do you stand on it? Because it's just another bit of, it's a bad look all in, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Blair's right. I thought it was incredibly naive of Russell Martin to think that that is a way to handle it. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, I don't see that going down well in the dressing room in the slightest. Secondly, I don't think that when you actively have what we consider to be an asset who could go for big money, that you paint him in such a public light as basically being somebody with a bad attitude, which is what he's done. So from a selling point of view, I think it's again, I'll use the same phrase, nonsensical, Derek. Doesn't make any sense to handle it. If he doesn't want to say he's injured, just say he's sick and he felt a bit unwell. Just do anything to downplay it, like Blair said. Yeah. But to do that, it's almost, and Blair's right, the aspersion being cast is, and to immediately follow it up, by the way, with we had a bid turned down during the week, which came out of nowhere as well, is basically setting the player up to have it look like his attitude is wrong and his attitude is bad. So from that point of view, Derek, it's not handled well at all. I'm going to flip it slightly towards Hamza Igamane as well. Hamza Igamane's attitude is appalling. Since he returned back, he's been unfit. He's been overweight. And it's clear what Russell Martin is saying when he talks about players trying to get back to fitness and the difference between him and Cyril Dessers, who, by the way, he more or less told us yesterday, also wants away from the football club, judging by his words yesterday, where he said, he hasn't asked for a transfer, but he's told us basically what he wants to happen, which again is completely unnecessary, is unfair, probably on Cyril, and doesn't need to be aired in the public either. So that's him wanting away. That's Hamza most likely wanting away. Then you look at Bayrami on Instagram. Then you look at Cortez on Instagram. Yeah. How many of those in that dressing room now want away? And it's the situation that it's painted in the eyes of the support who are looking in from outside and thinking, what's exactly is going on in that dressing room? The stories have already started of discontent and unrest in there, and we just don't need it. It's all entirely avoidable, and as Blair says. But to go back to Hamza, turns up late, coming back from the summer, Derek. He's not prepared to come back, visa issues, etc. He's taking no responsibility there for trying to get that organised. He come back, he's not ready, he's not fit. And all of those things, by the way, point to somebody with an extremely bad attitude that doesn't care about the football club, because we plucked him from more or less obscurity, given him a platform. The fans worship him. Probably not right as well, the way that he's given and the platform that the fans give him, because he's not consistently shown it for me either. And we go on about him, like he's incredible and things like that. And I don't think it's right. And he's basically thrown it back in our face. So it works several ways. I don't believe for a second, by the way, he's injured. I watched him warming up. I watched him warm up on the sidelines right in front of us. He never ever asked for any treatment. He was never given any treatment. See if his quad was sore and he'd alerted people or whatever, he would have been iced up and strapped up on the bench and it wouldn't even have been a consideration. So I don't believe it in a second. I think that Russell Martin's frustration over that is clear. I think he doesn't believe him, but there's a way to handle things. And all he's done now in doing that yesterday is leave us with a situation where a player that clearly wants out, that clearly isn't interested in playing for the football club, and now people in France who want to sign him, who are making bids and things like that, will look at Rangers' valuation and go, well, why don't we just put in this offer? And that's why we're going to end up stuck in a position that we didn't want. And it's just, the whole thing just points back to, and these comments, by the way, about it's not the end of the world and stuff like that. Well, I'm sorry, it is. And he was warned on day one, you have to win at this football club, no matter how you do it. and the rest can follow. And he would have got time. If we had won the opening games of the season, it wasn't quite happening on the pitch. With regards to performances, people would have given it a wee bit more time and said, well, it'll come and things will happen. All he's doing is pouring more fuel on the fire to the people that clearly don't want him here. And the problem that Russell Martin's got is that's very much not a minority.
Yeah. I just don't think he's aware of the magnitude of this football club.
He should be though, Derek. He was here.
No, I know.
He was warned on day one. It shouldn't be a surprise to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Just on Hamza, I know he can't reply at this point, but he had some from his camp suggesting that he did flag an injury pre-match. So just to keep the balance of the argument there. But yeah, many are not buying that, that's for sure. So yeah, moving on from that, you mentioned Cyril Dessers there, Stevie. Let's play what Russell Martin had to say, because he was quizzed on that. And of course, over the weekend, Rangers linked with, Bojan Miovski, certainly a player of interest to Rangers, looking to bring him in on loan from Girona. He's deemed surplus to requirements there. This is what he had to say on Cyril and Miovski as well.
In football, but I'll go back to Cyril again. He's worked really hard to get fit, hasn't quite been fit. He'll probably be fit for Wednesday. So whilst he's made it really clear what his intention would be, or what his desire would be, there's been no problem, none. So he trains properly, performs with the team, been great. But everyone's different, every human being's different. Cyril's quite experienced, some of the guys are really young. So the situation will be cleared up in the next 10 days. I'm quite calm about it. We'll assess Hamza. Hopefully it's not too bad, and we'll see what happens.
So Cyril's also asked to leave?
No, Cyril hasn't asked to leave. He's not asked to leave once. Okay. But we've had a lot of discussions about it. So we'll see what happens.
You linked with Miovski this morning, yeah?
We've been linked with a lot of players. I think having 2 bids for strikers now, it's probably common sense that we would look to replace him at some point. But he's obviously another one that's been linked like many players.
Blair, the point there, and this is where a lot of supporters are taking issue with what Russell Martin is saying post-match and also pre-match as well, but on Cyril Dessers. So whilst he's made it really clear what his intention would be or what his desire would be, there's been no problem, none. So then pushed on that, is he asked to leave? No. So I don't get what he's sort of alluding to there.
Yeah, that is I'm not exaggerating when I say I must have watched that clip back about 25 to 30 times in the press room before I put it out there, because I was just trying to make heads or tails of it, trying to work out what he was actually saying. It is a really confusing statement, a really confusing answer, because the first part of the statement really suggests that Cyril Dessers has had a conversation where he has intimated that he wants to leave the club, or he's made it clear that he would like to try a new challenge. Fair enough. And then when pressed on it, Russell Martin point blank says no, he's never asked to leave the club. So I think that left us all in the press room a little bit bemused. I think that 2 things can't be questioned. I think that Cyril Dessers' attitude has always been absolutely spot on at the club. I think even in the previous seasons when things maybe haven't been going Cyril Dessers' way, we've all spoke to him on occasion. He's a stand-up guy who will always give his best for the team. Whether he's got the quality or not, I don't know if he comes back into this side. I would imagine that if Russell Martin is hinting at things like he has had discussions and they have had conversations about his future, that he's maybe one that will be in the exit door before this week is out, especially if Rangers manage to get people in. But again, I go back to my earlier point. I think at number 9, I think it still leaves us with a really big problem. I think you take Cyril Dessers out of that team, you take a lot of goals out of that team, like it or not. So I think there definitely has to be replacements, and I think it has to be more than one. I think Rangers are probably looking at least 2 strikers. Now, when you get to the point that it's the last week of the window, and all of a sudden you come into this season without a number 9, or without a number 9 that can actually get on the park consistently, I think that's a real concern. So I think that Cyril Dessers, given the comments yesterday, was more likely than not to be on his way out. But I think, as Russell Martin has said on occasion, and I think as we've all seen, if Cyril Dessers does stay, I don't think there's any question in his commitment going forward.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of goals out of the team last season. This season, my issue as well, if Miovski arrives, Rangers aren't scoring anywhere near enough goals as it is, and they don't look like scoring anywhere near enough goals given this system. So whoever you bring in, I have my doubts if they're going to flourish playing in this style. Stevie, what do you make of Dessers, Miovski, and the whole striker situation?
Said last week, and I'll say it again, it doesn't matter who you've got in the 9 position. You could have Erling Haaland up there and it would make absolutely no difference because we are creating absolutely 0 chances for our 9. A lot of criticism for Danilo. How many chances has he missed this season? Because he isn't getting any. It was Finlay Curtis to the rest of the team 0 with regards to efforts and goal yesterday. I think I seen that on Sky Sports in the highlights last night. So, you know, I don't get the criticism of the 9s because the criticism is clearly of the system where we don't feed them, we don't use them, and they're most often isolated as others are in this system. By the way, midfielders that are playing so wide that as soon as they lose the ball, the midfield gets cut open, and people are talking about Rothwell's mobility and stuff like that, and I understand that, but he's clearly in a system that doesn't suit him. You know, it'd be like asking John Lundstrom to play in midfield all on his own and wondering why people were running past him. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. But to go back to the 9s again, as exciting as Bojan Miovski might be, you know, in space behind him and having a bit of pace, being able to finish, it's absolutely pointless. Derek, I'm not excited about it because he will not thrive in this system. And I'm sorry if that's ultra negative, but it's just realistic that we've rotated our 9s between Dessers, Danilo, and even Hamza at times, and every one of them doesn't look dangerous because of the positions that they play in the space that they're asking to occupy. It doesn't work. I would have said neither. Any of them haven't missed chances because none are getting created. Danny, I think, is the first time, and he scored against Club Brugge last week. It's the first time a chance like that has literally been put on the plate for any of them. So I'm sorry, I'm struggling a wee bit to get up or excited for Miovski because as decent a player as I think he is, Derek, and I think he is, that I just don't see how it works in this system. But to go back to the comments on Dessers, it's just not necessary.
I know.
It's not necessary. Why make them? He's more or less said there that we've had conversations and Cyril's made it clear what he thinks. And whether we like it or not, Cyril might have said he really, really wants to stay. And that means that we really want him to go. But it looks to all looking in on it that he wants away as well. And especially when he says you can see how he's trained and there's been no issue and stuff like that. So his preference from those words, and I don't know if Blair would agree, having watched it back so many times, it's almost painting it in a light that says Cyril wants to go, but he's trained really well. And the difference in his attitude and Hamza's attitude is stark, because that's what I took from it, looking in on it. And again, it's just completely unnecessary. And it goes back to my point earlier on. What is going on in that dressing room when Hamza wants away, Cyril wants to go? You've got other players like Cortez and Bayrami going on social media who are clearly upset at things that are going on and will probably look to leave during the end of the week as well. So what is the situation in that dressing room? How many of them actually want out already? Because I watched these players yesterday and I seen the highlights back. People were saying, go and watch the start of them in the tunnel and stuff like that. I watched Bruges come out at the start of the second half during the week and do little drills and be up for it. I watched our guys trudge onto the pitch. Like, it's everything about this screams to me alarm bells and red flags. And it screams to me that players aren't happy and even playing and being on the pitch. And you've got guys now we openly know don't even want to come on it. It's not good, Derek. It's not good. And by the way, we're only 8 weeks in and we're only 3 league games in. And I think everybody knows where this is going. It's certainly in the eyes of the support yesterday. You asked what it was like in the away end. They want him out, Derek. It's quite clear in that. And that's not, by the way, that's universal amongst the support. Some of the chants even started yesterday. He took one look at the away end and went to applaud it, and the reaction was ferocious, and he quickly backtracked and went off the park very quickly with John Suter. So I don't think there's any point in trying to pretend here that the fan base who didn't want him have certainly spoken. And with Bruges and Celtic on the horizon, if we defend and play and we're as disorganised as we are, then that will be 2 very heavy and painful defeats quite quickly. Because, by the way, if you sit in the halfway line with the pace that Bruges and Celtic have got, forget it.
It's incredible we're at this stage because the summer, of course, all the goodwill and excitement with the takeover. You're thinking, okay, Rangers are going to start acting like a proper football club here. Changes are going to be made, and we've seen it behind the scenes. And to go from that to this in such a short period of time. But you mentioned earlier on, Stevie, it wasn't the popular appointment. He was starting behind the 8 ball. He had to start off well, and that's why it's important, I think, for Russell Martin that he got wins on the board early. Just gradually try and adapt the teams and the playing style, because you're at a huge football club here with a fan base that are unsure about your credentials, about taking over. Just make sure you get wins early doors on the board. But he's just went all in and trying to change things, and it hasn't. What you said earlier on, if we could see shoots of what he's trying to do, then you could go, right, okay, it's worth sticking with it. But there's nothing there. If anything, they've got worse than what they were last season, which is some feat, you've got to say. But yeah, doesn't bode well. As I mentioned there, I don't think it matters what players you bring in at this point. I imagine Rangers will be pretty active this week with the final days before the window closes, but the system has to change drastically. Does that happen under this head coach? I don't think it does. So yeah, I think more pain is on the way, probably starting on Wednesday. Chris is actually jetting out today to Belgium, folks, so we'll have plenty of Rangers content if you can stomach it up until that game. And of course, from the Bruges Stadium on Wednesday night, as Rangers try and overturn a 2-goal deficit. That'll be quite something if they're able to do that. And then there's a huge game at the weekend, the Old Firm encounter. Rangers already 6 points behind Celtic. We'll look more closely at that as the week goes on. But let's be honest, I don't have much confidence going into that game that Rangers can reduce that gap. But there you go. But we'll wrap up there for now. Big thank you to you all for tuning in. Thank you to James Strachan as well. Just noticed this, he's donated kindly to the channel. Thank you, James. And actually, he's got a point in here, so I'll whack it up. He's also donated some more Aussie dollars to the channel. Thank you, James. This is what you think, and you honest think about the coach's comments. You think our players want away because they still were playing. Well, sort of what we touched on there, James. We sort of addressed that issue, but yeah, all is not rosy in the garden. That is clearly evident from what we are witnessing at this point in time. Right,
Derek, can I just say something very quickly on that point with James, and he talks about the owners. I think it might be difficult for Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi to really know, because they're somewhat detached and they'll be relying on Patrick Stewart and things reporting back to them. And that becomes really difficult when Patrick Stewart has put it all on the line to appoint Russell Martin, that he really would be aware of not only the fan feeling, but report it back. But everybody is over for this game on Sunday. I mean, everybody. The whole contingent of investors and everybody else. And if they're not aware, then I would hazard a guess that they certainly will be aware at the end of this match on Sunday.
Yeah. It could be a long week. Hopefully we get 2 wins, but I just can't see it, to be honest with you. But there you go. Big thing.
I'd settle for 2 shots at this moment in time.
yeah. Let's gradually build. Anyway, right, we'll wrap up there. Big thank you to Stevie and to Blair as well. Thank you to you all for tuning into the show as ever, and we'll speak to you later on. Enjoy your Monday, whatever you're up to, folks. Bye for now.